My own mother was sitting across from me in a courtroom, trying to legally remove my right to manage my own life. She walked away from me when I was 7 years old and then disappeared for 15 years without a single phone call, message, or visit. Now she had returned, not to apologize and not to rebuild our relationship, but to stand in front of a judge and claim that I was too mentally unstable to control my own bank account, my car, or the apartment that I paid for with my own money. Her lawyer sat beside her with a confident smile, as if the decision had already been made. He looked completely relaxed, like everything was already going in their favor. What he did not realize was that the situation was about to turn in a way he never expected. My name is Thea Warren. I am 28 years old, and this is the story of how my own mother tried to take everything I worked for, and how her plan ended with her losing far more than she ever imagined. If you are watching this, please subscribe to the channel and also let me know where you are watching from. Now I want to take you back to the moment when this entire family conflict truly started. It was a Tuesday morning when my phone rang and a voice I had not heard in 15 years said, "Hi, baby. It is Mom." It was a Tuesday morning in March, and I was standing at my kitchen counter pouring coffee into a thermos before leaving for work when my phone began to vibrate. The screen showed an unknown number with a Virginia area code, but it was not from my local area. Normally, I ignore calls like that. I receive spam calls at least twice a week, and most of the time I simply let them ring until they stop. But something about this call made me pick up the phone. Even today, I cannot clearly explain why I answered. The moment I said hello, a voice came through the speaker and said, "Hi, baby. It is Mom." My hand lost its grip on the thermos. It slipped and spilled coffee across the kitchen counter. The dark liquid spread slowly across the surface, but I did not move to clean it. In fact, I did not move at all. The last time I heard that voice was when I was 7 years old. I was standing barefoot on my grandmother's front porch, watching a blue sedan drive away from the house. My mother did not wave goodbye. She did not turn her head to look back at me. She simply drove away. For the next 21 years, the only thing she left me with was that final image of her car's tail lights disappearing down the road. And now suddenly she was on the phone again, her voice shaking as she spoke. She started saying things like, "I know I do not deserve this chance, but I just want to see you. I have changed, Thea. I promise." I did not answer her. It was not because I was trying to appear strong. It was because my throat had tightened so much that I could not form any words. She continued speaking into the silence. She told me she was now living about 2 hours south of where I was. She explained that she had remarried and that she wanted to repair the damage from the past. She repeated the same line 4 different times, saying she wanted to make things right. Finally, without saying a single word, I ended the call. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness. The feeling was closer to alarm, like the sound of a fire detector suddenly going off in a quiet house where you thought no one else was present. I placed the phone on the counter, wiped the spilled coffee, and picked up the thermos again. A moment later, my laptop made a notification sound. It was an automated email from my bank. The subject line said "Credit Alert" and stated that a significant change had been detected on my account. My credit score had dropped 90 points overnight. I stared at the computer screen for several seconds. Then I slowly looked back at my phone. 2 strange events had happened on the same morning, and I have never been someone who believes in coincidences. To explain why this felt so wrong, I need to go back further into the past. I grew up in a small house on Maple Ridge Road, about 40 minutes outside Charlottesville. The house belonged to my grandmother, Ruth Warren, the woman who raised me after my mother walked away. My mother's name was Donna Beckett before she remarried. She left on a Thursday afternoon. I remember that detail clearly because Grandma Ruth had cooked pot roast that day, and she only made pot roast on Thursdays. I was sitting at the kitchen table drawing pictures of horses when the front door opened and then closed again. When I looked up, my mother was walking outside carrying a suitcase. A car I had never seen before was waiting in the driveway, and a man I did not recognize was sitting behind the wheel. Grandma Ruth did not run after her or shout. Instead, she simply walked over, picked me up, placed me on her hip, and said gently, "You are staying with me now, baby." Then she added, and that is not a bad thing. She was right. Ruth Warren worked for 30 years as a bookkeeper at the county clerk's office. She was never wealthy, but she was reliable and disciplined. She kept every receipt in organized folders, filed every tax return exactly on time, and taught me that money was something you respected and managed carefully, not something you chased without thinking. Following her example, I focused on my education. I earned a scholarship to the University of Virginia, graduated with a degree in finance, and later accepted a position as a financial analyst at a mid-sized firm in Charlottesville. With my own savings, I purchased a used Honda Civic, and I began paying off a small one-bedroom apartment with a 15-year mortgage. Then, 2 years ago, Grandma Ruth passed away. The cause was pancreatic cancer. It moved quickly and gave us very little time to prepare. In her will she left me the Maple Ridge house, her personal savings account with about $120,000, and a metal filing cabinet that stood inside the hallway closet. That cabinet contained every important document connected to my life. My birth certificate, my social security card, old insurance forms, school records, and dozens of other files. Grandma Ruth believed in keeping everything organized in one secure place. She trusted the world more than it deserved to be trusted. Unfortunately, someone else knew exactly where that cabinet was located. Later that same evening, I sat at my desk and opened my full credit report. What I discovered made my stomach feel heavy. My credit score, which I had carefully built to 780 over the past 6 years, had dropped to 520. The report listed 4 credit cards that I had never opened. One of them was a department store card from a state I had never even visited. There was also a small personal loan that had been issued 3 years earlier. When I added everything together, the total outstanding debt was $43,000. Some of the accounts had existed for nearly a decade. One credit card had been opened when I was 18, the same year I started college. I had never owned a credit card that was not issued directly through my bank. Immediately, I called the credit bureau. The woman on the phone carefully explained the dispute process and told me how to submit the required documentation. However, she also warned me that the process could take months. She explained that each account would have to be investigated individually. Then she added that I would also need to file reports with all 3 major credit bureaus. Months. That was the best solution anyone could offer while $43,000 of debt sat under my name. The following morning at work, I explained everything to Claire Aldrich. Claire is a certified public accountant who works 2 cubicles away from me, and she is the closest person I have to a best friend. She listened quietly without interrupting me, which immediately told me the situation was serious. Claire usually becomes silent only when she is mentally calculating details. When I finished explaining the situation, she did not respond with sympathy phrases like, "I am sorry," or "That sounds terrible." Instead, she said, "For cards over 10 years. This does not look like a data breach, Thea. Someone has your social security number, and they have probably had it for a long time." Then she looked directly at me across the desk and asked, "Who had access to your social security information when you were a kid?" I opened my mouth to answer, but stopped. My mind immediately pictured the filing cabinet in Grandma Ruth's hallway closet, the cabinet that contained every important document. It was located in the same house where my mother had grown up, the house she knew better than anyone else. 3 days later, Donna appeared at my office. I was reviewing a quarterly report at my desk when the receptionist called my extension. She said, "There is a woman in the lobby who says she is your mother." I walked out to the front area, and there she was standing near the reception desk. She was wearing a neatly pressed blouse and pearl earrings, and she was gently dabbing her eyes with a tissue. She looked older and thinner than I remembered, but also very carefully prepared, the kind of person who might appear sympathetic at first glance. The moment she noticed me, she quickly walked across the lobby and wrapped her arms around me. "Oh, Thea, my baby," she said loudly enough that the receptionist and 2 employees walking past could hear her voice crack with emotion. I did not return the hug. I simply stood still until she released me. She pulled a chair closer and immediately began speaking again. She explained that she had changed and that she was deeply sorry for the past. She said she had found religion, found stability, and married a good man named Greg. According to her story, he was waiting outside in the car. She also told me she had a daughter named Jocelyn who was 22 years old. Your sister, Thea, she said. You have a sister. I nodded politely, but spoke very little. Soon the questions began. At first, they sounded small and casual. She asked where I lived and what type of car I drove. After that, the questions became more direct. She asked whether Grandma Ruth had left me anything in her will, such as the house or savings. As she spoke, I carefully watched her face. Her eyes moved quickly from my office badge to my desk through the glass door and then down to my shoes. She was studying me, measuring what I owned. When I did not answer her question, she said she had heard about the house from a cousin and that she only wanted to make sure I was taken care of. At that point, I stood up from the chair and said calmly, I need to return to work, Donna. She blinked when she heard me use her name instead of the word mom. Donna, I repeated. She looked confused and said softly, I came all the way to your office. Does that not mean anything? I replied, it means you wanted witnesses. Then I added, next time call first. That weekend, I drove to Grandma Ruth's house on Maple Ridge Road. The spare key was still hidden under the third flower pot beside the door. When I stepped inside, the house smelled like dust and lemon cleaner, exactly the way it always smelled during Ruth Warren's Saturday cleaning routine. I walked directly to the hallway closet and opened the filing cabinet. Something looked wrong. The folders were slightly out of order. Grandma Ruth always arranged every file alphabetically by category, including banking, insurance, medical, and tax records. Now the insurance folder was sitting behind the tax folder. It was a small detail, but Ruth Warren never misfiled anything in her entire life. I pulled out the envelope labeled Social Security. The envelope had been opened carefully along the top edge instead of being torn. Someone had gently slid it open and then folded it closed again. The card was still inside, but it was obvious that someone had handled it. I sat down on the hallway floor and called my cousin Pam. 3 months ago, I told her, you mentioned that a woman stopped by asking about the house. What exactly did she say? Pam explained that a woman named Donna had come to her door, introduced herself as Ruth's daughter, and asked whether the Maple Ridge house had been sold. Pam had not thought much about it at the time because the woman seemed polite and friendly. She even said she missed her mother. After ending the call, Claire and I conducted a deeper investigation into the fraudulent credit cards. The billing addresses rotated between 3 different locations, all in towns where Donna had lived during the past decade. One address was a P.O. box in Southern Virginia. Another address was an apartment in North Carolina. The third address was located in Tennessee, and later I discovered that it belonged to Greg. Then I found something else inside the filing cabinet. At the bottom was a folder labeled personal in Grandma Ruth's handwriting. Inside the folder was a letter that was about 8 years old. The handwriting belonged to Donna. I recognized it immediately from the birthday cards she used to send me until I was 5. The letter read, Mama, I need $5,000. Please. I am desperate. Grandma Ruth never told me about that letter, and she never sent the money. The certified envelope arrived on a Monday afternoon. I signed for it at my mailbox because I assumed it was related to the credit dispute I had recently started. But it was not connected to that at all. The envelope came from the county court. Inside was a formal legal petition for guardianship filed by Donna Marsh, formerly known as Donna Beckett. In the document, she requested that she be appointed as the legal guardian over me, Thea Warren, age 28. Her claim stated that I lacked the mental and cognitive ability to manage my own financial responsibilities because of psychological instability following a serious personal loss. I read the petition once. Then I read it again. Then I read it a third time, hoping I had misunderstood something. Attached to the petition was a psychiatric evaluation signed by a man named Dr. Raymond P. The document stated that I showed signs of emotional fragility, poor judgment, and an inability to make responsible financial decisions. The problem was simple. I had never met Dr. Raymond P. I had never been evaluated by any psychiatrist in my life. The petition also listed the legal representative for the petitioner. It was Gregory Marsh, Esquire, who was Donna's husband. The legal request was extensive and detailed. It asked for full control over my bank accounts, management authority over the property I inherited, legal control of the title to my vehicle, and oversight of every financial decision I would make. In simple terms, she wanted complete control over everything I owned. She wanted everything. The first person I called was Marcus Bell. He is a family law attorney who has practiced in Charlottesville for 30 years. More importantly, he was also a close friend of Grandma Ruth. They attended the same church for many years, and Marcus was the attorney who prepared her will. I read the entire guardianship petition to him over the phone. When I finished, there was a long pause on the other end of the line. It was the type of silence that happens when a calm and experienced person is carefully choosing the right words. Finally, Marcus spoke. "Thea," he said slowly, "this is not really a guardianship case. This is a financial takeover that has been written in legal language." He explained that the court hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks from now. He also told me that we would need solid and documented evidence to fight it. Then he said something that immediately made me feel uneasy. "Do not let Donna know that you are preparing a defense," he said. "Do not say a single word." A few days later, Jocelyn contacted me through Instagram. Her account was filled with selfies and motivational quotes, the type of profile that looked carefully organized to appear friendly and harmless. Her message was simple and polite. "Hi, Thea. I know this is strange, but I would really like to meet my big sister. Even though my instincts warned me to be careful, I agreed to meet her. We chose a coffee shop near the university campus. She was 22 years old, blonde, bright-eyed, wearing a light summer dress and a nervous smile. She introduced herself with an awkward greeting and ordered an iced latte. Almost immediately, she started talking about how difficult Donna could be as a mother. "Mom is intense," she said while rolling her eyes, as if we were sharing a private joke. "Believe me, I understand." After a few minutes, the conversation shifted in a subtle way. Her questions became more focused. She asked how I was coping after my grandmother passed away. She asked whether I felt stable financially. She also asked whether I had considered getting professional help to deal with stress. None of her questions sounded openly judgmental, but each one was placed carefully and directly. She was not simply making casual conversation. She was gathering information. I kept my responses simple and neutral. I told her that I was fine, that my job was going well, and that I was managing my responsibilities. After a few minutes, Jocelyn said she needed to use the restroom and stood up from the table. While she was gone, her phone vibrated where it sat beside her coffee. The screen lit up with a message notification. I did not touch the phone, and I did not need to. The message preview was clearly visible on the screen. It said, "Mom, did she say anything about the apartment?" I looked at that message for about 3 seconds before turning my eyes away. When Jocelyn returned to the table, she was smiling again as if nothing unusual had happened. "This was really nice, Thea," she said. "We should do this again sometime." I smiled politely and agreed. I finished my coffee and left shortly after. Once I was outside, I sat in my car for about 5 minutes before starting the engine. My hands were completely steady and my thoughts were clear. She had not come there to meet her sister. She had come there with instructions. And now I understood exactly what this family was trying to do. Marcus Bell's office is located on the second floor of a converted Victorian house on Main Street. The room is filled with tall bookshelves that reach from the floor to the ceiling. A brass desk lamp sits on the corner of his desk, and on the wall there is a framed photograph of Marcus and Grandma Ruth at a church fundraising event. Claire, Marcus, and I sat together around the conference table. Claire opened her laptop and turned the screen toward us. "Here is what I discovered," she said. According to the records she had gathered, there were 11 credit cards and 3 personal loans connected to my Social Security number. The total debt was $87,000. Every single account had been opened using my identity. Every billing address connected to those accounts matched a location where Donna Marsh had lived during the past 12 years. Marcus wrote notes on a yellow legal pad while listening. Claire continued explaining the pattern. Donna had been careful. She made minimum payments on most of the accounts, just enough to keep them active without triggering fraud warnings. The oldest credit card had been opened when I was 14 years old. 14 years old. At that time, I was in ninth grade learning algebra in school, while my own mother was living in another town and spending money using my name. Marcus finally placed his pen down and looked at both of us. "Here is our strategy," he said. "We do not reveal anything before the hearing." He explained that we would allow Donna to present her petition first in court. She would appear as the grieving mother who was concerned about her daughter. Only after that would we respond with our evidence. Our goal would not only be to defeat the guardianship claim, but also to show the court who was actually unfit to manage financial matters. Marcus slid a document across the table toward me. "This is an FTC identity theft report," he explained. "You will file it today." He also said that we needed to file a report with the local police department to receive an official case number. I signed the forms. Claire printed a full timeline of the fraudulent credit activity, and Marcus placed the papers inside a large manila folder. Before the meeting ended, Marcus added one more point. "The psychiatrist who signed Donna's evaluation, Dr. Raymond Poole, is someone I want to investigate." He looked at me over the top of his glasses and said, "If that evaluation turns out to be fraudulent, then this is not just a weak legal petition. It becomes a criminal matter." Later that night, Donna posted a photograph of me on Facebook. In the picture, I was 5 years old and sitting on a small tricycle in the front yard. The caption she wrote said, "I am fighting every day to protect my baby girl. A mother never stops loving." Within a few hours, the post had collected more than 300 comments. Every comment was filled with sympathy and encouragement directed toward her. At this point, I want to pause the story for a moment because many people watching might be wondering why I did not simply block her and walk away from the situation. I asked myself that same question almost every day. But when someone files a legal petition against you in court, ignoring it is not an option. If you fail to appear, the judge can issue a default ruling, which means the other side automatically wins. So let me ask you something. If the parent who abandoned you 21 years ago suddenly returned and filed a lawsuit against you, what would you do? Think about it and share your answer in the comments. Now let me continue the story, because the events that followed were far worse than anything that had happened before. During the next 2 weeks, Donna began an aggressive public campaign. The Facebook posts continued almost every day. She shared old photographs of me as a toddler and wrote long emotional captions about the pain of a mother watching her daughter struggle. In several posts, she wrote that she was praying that Thea would accept the help she desperately needed. Strangers began sharing the posts across social media. Many of these people were individuals I had never met before, but they suddenly appeared as part of Donna's support network. Then the phone calls began. One afternoon, my second cousin Linda called me. "Honey, your mama is completely heartbroken," she said. "She says you will not allow her to help you. Why are you refusing to talk to her?" I tried to explain the situation, but Linda interrupted me. "She is your mother, Thea," she said firmly. "You only get one." 2 days later, my landlord called me. His voice sounded uncomfortable. "MS. Warren," he said, "I received a call from a woman who says she is your mother. She asked whether you have been paying her rent on time. She also mentioned that you are dealing with mental health problems." For a moment, I felt as if the floor had shifted slightly beneath my feet. My mother had contacted my landlord. I told him I had never missed a payment. He said he knew that was true, but the hesitation in his voice made it clear that the idea had already planted doubt. The situation at my workplace soon became uncomfortable as well. One afternoon, I overheard 2 coworkers whispering near the break room about a family court case. When I walked into the room, they immediately became quiet. One of them smiled too quickly and asked if I wanted coffee. It became obvious that Donna had been calling people connected to my life, including relatives, my landlord, and possibly neighbors. She was telling them that I was unstable and unable to care for myself. She was not only filing legal paperwork. She was building a narrative around me, shaping the story so that by the time we entered the courtroom, many people would already believe her version of events. Marcus had warned me that I could not respond publicly. Any statement I made online or to family members could be twisted and used against me during the hearing. So I stayed silent while my own mother slowly rewrote the story of my life in front of everyone. On a Wednesday evening, Marcus called me again. His voice sounded calm, but I could hear tension underneath his words. I discovered something about Dr. Raymond P., he said. The psychiatrist who signed the evaluation claiming that I was mentally unfit had actually lost his medical license 2 years earlier. The Virginia Board of Medicine had revoked his license after he provided fabricated psychological evaluations for use in legal disputes. There had been 3 separate complaints filed by 3 different attorneys. After the investigation, he was formally disciplined and stripped of his credentials. He cannot legally practice medicine anymore, Marcus explained. He cannot sign psychiatric evaluations. That meant the document Donna submitted to the court had no legal value. I sat quietly on my couch with the phone pressed against my ear while absorbing the information. Donna had not simply hired a questionable doctor. She had located a disgraced one who was already known for producing false reports. How did she even find him? I asked. Marcus answered, that is the interesting part. For years earlier, Gregory Marsh had used Dr. Raymond Poole as an expert witness during a property dispute case, which happened before the doctor lost his license. In other words, Greg already knew him. Gregory Marsh, the lawyer husband who wrote the guardianship petition, had selected the fake evaluator and sat in the courtroom pretending everything was legitimate. At that moment, the full picture became clear. Donna was not acting alone. This entire situation had been carefully planned. Greg designed the legal structure of the case. Donna played the role of the emotional mother in public. Together, they searched for a doctor who would sign any document they needed in exchange for payment. Marcus, I say, if they falsified the psychiatric evaluation, what else might they have falsified? He remains silent for a moment before answering. That is exactly the question I am going to investigate, he replies. I will review every document included in their petition, every signature, and every date. After we end the call, I sit quietly and stare at the wall. My mother did not simply return to take my money. She returned with a detailed plan already prepared. Then, about 1 week before the court hearing, another envelope appears in my mailbox. This one has no return address, and the name is written by hand. I open it while sitting at my kitchen table. Inside are 4 pages written on both the front and the back. The handwriting is Donna's familiar looping cursive. In the letter, she writes about the emotional pain of being separated from her first child. She describes sleepless nights when she worried about whether I was safe. She also tells a version of our family history where she claims that she was forced to leave because of circumstances beyond her control. According to her story, Grandma Ruth refused to allow her to see me again. She is blaming a woman who is no longer alive to defend herself. Inside the folded pages is also a photograph. It shows me at age 4 sitting on a small stool in our old kitchen, smiling at the camera. I recognize the photograph immediately. It came from Grandma Ruth's album, the same album that used to sit on the shelf in the Maple Ridge house. Donna must have taken it when she searched through the filing cabinet. When I reach the final paragraph of the letter, the handwriting becomes tighter and the tone changes. She writes, "If you fight me in court, everyone will know that you rejected your own mother." Is that the kind of person you want to be, Thea? Think carefully. I read that sentence 3 times. It is not a request for understanding. It is clearly a threat. At the bottom, she signs the letter, "Love, Mom." She even underlines the word love twice, as if pressing harder with the pen could somehow make it real. I scan every page of the letter, both front and back. Then I send the scan files to Marcus with a short message explaining that they should be added to the case records. What Donna does not understand about me is simple. I work as a financial analyst. My entire profession involves reading documents carefully, identifying inconsistencies, and following numbers until I understand the complete pattern. She wrote a 4-page letter filled with emotional language, but when I look at it, I see evidence. The handwriting matches the letter she sent to Grandma Ruth 8 years earlier, the one where she begged for $5,000. It is the same handwriting from the same person following the same pattern. On Saturday, I drive to Maple Ridge to gather the final documents Marcus needs. When I turn onto the street, my chest tightens immediately. A silver SUV that belongs to Donna is parked in the driveway. The front door of the house is unlocked. I step inside and see Donna standing in the living room. She is slowly running her hand along the mantel above the fireplace as if she is evaluating its value. Greg is standing near the window with his arms crossed, wearing a sport coat inside my grandmother's house like he is attending a property showing. "What are you doing here?" I ask. Donna turns toward me and says calmly, "This is the house where I grew up, Thea. I have every right to be here." I respond immediately, "Your name is not on the deed." "Mine is." Greg steps forward and holds out a document printed on legal-size paper. "Sign this," he says. "It is a voluntary guardianship agreement that would prevent the case from going to court. If you sign it," he explains, "we can handle everything quietly." I look at the document, but I do not touch it. "No," I say firmly. Greg tilts his head slightly. "You will regret that decision," he says. "Courts do not look kindly on young women who refuse help from their family." At that moment, Donna begins crying instantly, like a faucet being turned on. "Why are you making this so difficult?" she says. "I am trying to protect you." I respond, "Protect me from what?" "My own bank account." Then I remove my phone from my pocket. "I am calling the non-emergency police line," I tell them. "You can wait here for them, or you can leave." Greg places his hand on Donna's arm and says, "Let us go. We will see her in court." They walk toward the door. Before leaving, Donna pauses and looks back at me. Her eyes appear wet, but her mouth is tight. It is the expression of someone who believed this situation would be easy and has just realized that it will not be. After they leave, I immediately check the filing cabinet. 2 folders appear thinner than before. My second copy of my birth certificate is missing. I lock the door, change the security code on the keypad, and call Marcus to report what happened. Claire spends the entire weekend working on the financial records. By Monday morning, she walks into my cubicle and places a printed spreadsheet on my desk. The sheet contains 11 rows, each color-coded and carefully annotated to show a full timeline. "Here it is," she says. Every fraudulent account, the date it was opened, the credit limit, the current balance, the billing address, and the location where Donna was living at the time. I review the columns slowly. The first card was opened when I was 14 years old. It was a retail store card with a $500 limit sent to a P.O. box in Roanoke. The most recent card was opened 6 months ago. It was a Visa with a $12,000 limit mailed to a rental unit that was registered under Greg's name. Claire explains that several of the applications were submitted online. She was able to cross-reference the IP addresses on 3 of them, and all of them came from regions where Donna had been living. Then Claire taps one row highlighted in red. "This one," she says quietly, "was opened 3 weeks after your grandmother's funeral." I stare at the date printed in the column. 3 weeks. Ruth Warren had barely been buried. The flowers on her grave had probably not even faded yet. And during that time, Donna was already opening another credit line under my identity. Claire continues explaining the pattern. Donna always paid the minimum amount required, just enough to keep the accounts active and prevent fraud alerts from being triggered. She understood exactly how the system worked and used it carefully for more than a decade. The total amount reached $87,000. It was never taken all at once. Instead, it was slowly withdrawn over many years, across different states, through dozens of small transactions designed to avoid raising suspicion. Claire looks at me and says, "This was not impulsive behavior, Thea. This was a structured system." I nod silently. I take the spreadsheet and place it into the large manila folder with the rest of the evidence. Inside that folder are the FTC identity theft report, the police case number, the research about Dr. Raymond Poole, and the scanned letter from Donna. Before leaving my desk, Claire adds one more detail. The credit card she opened after the funeral, she says. She reached the maximum limit in 8 weeks. Every charge was a cash advance. During the week before the hearing, I begin to feel pressure closing in from every direction. My cousin Linda sends a group text message to several family members. The message says, "Please pray for Thea. She is going through a difficult time and her mother only wants to help her." I am included in the message thread, but I do not respond. At church, the same church where Grandma Ruth worshipped for many years, a woman who has known me since I was 12 approaches me quietly after the service. She lowers her voice and says, "Donna came here last Sunday. She cried the entire time. She said that you are shutting her out." The woman squeezes my hand gently, as if I am the one who needs correction. At work, the whispers become sharper. I hear fragments of conversations in the break room, the parking lot, and the elevator. I hear phrases like family court and her mother filed something. One afternoon, my supervisor, a fair and respectful man named Tom, asks me to come into his office. He closes the door and says, "Thea, this is not a disciplinary meeting. I just want to check on you. Is everything okay at home?" I immediately understand what happened. Either Donna called the office again, or someone she spoke to contacted them. I tell him calmly, "I am fine, Tom. I am dealing with a family legal matter, but it is not affecting my work." He nods, but then suggests that I might consider taking a few days off to clear my mind. He is not firing me, and he is not trying to be unkind, but the suggestion still hurts. It means that Donna's story has reached another part of my life. My family, my church, and my workplace have all been influenced by the narrative she created. She is not only attacking me in court, she is shaping public opinion so that when we finally stand before the judge, many people will already believe her version of events. That night, I drive home in complete silence. I do not turn on the radio, and I do not answer any calls. When I park my car, I remain sitting in the driver's seat with the engine turned off. Marcus told me not to respond publicly, so I remain silent. But the silence is beginning to have a cost. For days before the hearing, I sit in Marcus's office and watch as he carefully arranges our evidence on the conference table like a surgeon preparing instruments before an operation. Folder 1 contains a legitimate psychiatric evaluation of me conducted by Dr. Sarah Whitfield, a board-certified psychiatrist with an active license in Virginia. She spent 90 minutes interviewing me and reviewing my history. Her conclusion states clearly that there is no cognitive impairment, no psychological instability, and no indication of reduced mental capacity. According to her professional assessment, I am fully competent to manage my own life. Folder 2 contains my employment records, tax returns, and financial history. There are 6 years of on-time rent payments, a mortgage account in good standing, and performance reviews from my employer that include words like thorough, reliable, and exemplary. Folder 3 contains the disciplinary record of Dr. Raymond Poole, including the documents that show his license was revoked, the complaints filed against him, and his professional connection to Greg Marsh. Folder 4 contains Claire's complete identity theft timeline showing 11 credit cards, 3 loans, and a total fraudulent debt of $87,000. Addresses, dates, and IP cross-references. Folder 5 contains the FTC identity theft report, the official police case number, and confirmation documents from all 3 credit bureaus. Marcus carefully aligns the stack of files and then looks directly at me. "We are not going into court aggressively," he says. "We will allow them to present their case first. After that, we will place these documents on the table and allow the judge to reach her own conclusions." He pauses for a moment before adding something else. "Thea, I also issued a subpoena for Donna's personal financial records. If she used your social security number to borrow money, some of that activity will appear in her own accounts." I nod quietly. My hands are steady now. There is no shaking. Marcus continues speaking. "There is one more important detail. Our goal is not only to defeat the guardianship petition. We also want to provide the court with enough evidence to refer this situation for criminal prosecution." He holds my gaze for a moment and says, "Your grandmother asked me to look after you if anything ever happened to her. I promised her that I would." I sign the final document. The pen moves across the page without hesitation. In 4 days, I will walk into that courtroom, and I will not be the person on trial. On the night before the hearing, I drive to the Maple Ridge house. I do not need to collect any more documents because everything is already stored inside the folders Marcus prepared. I come here simply because I need to be inside this place again. The house is quiet. I walk slowly from room to room. First, the kitchen, where Ruth taught me how to make cornbread. Then the living room, where we watched Jeopardy together on weeknights. Finally, I stop in the hallway closet where the filing cabinet still stands. It is half empty now because most of the papers have been moved into legal folders and evidence binders. I sit down on the couch and look at a framed photograph on the side table. It shows Ruth at age 60 standing in her garden. She is squinting in the sunlight and holding a pair of pruning shears. Her expression looks slightly annoyed, but also strong and confident. After a moment, I open the desk drawer beside the couch. Inside are pens, rubber bands, and a small magnifying glass Ruth used whenever she needed to read very small print. At the bottom of the drawer, I find a small slip of paper that has yellowed along the edges. The writing on it is Ruth's handwriting. The note says, "Thea, everything in this house belongs to you. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. It is not part of a will, and it is not a legal document. It is simply a short message written on paper. Maybe she wrote it one ordinary Tuesday and forgot about it. Maybe she hoped that someday I would find it. Whatever the reason, those words reach a place in my heart that I did not realize was still vulnerable. I fold the note carefully and place it in my jacket pocket. At 11 p.m., my phone vibrates. It is a text message from Donna. The message says, "It is not too late to settle this privately, Thea. Think about what your grandmother would want." She used Ruth's name. She mentioned the woman she abandoned along with me 21 years earlier. The same woman who raised me when Donna disappeared. The same woman who refused to give Donna the $5,000 she once demanded. That message crossed the final line. I set my alarm for 6 a.m., turn off the lights in the house, and lie down to sleep. For the first time in several weeks, I sleep through the entire night without any dreams. The courtroom is smaller than I expected. There is no marble floor and no large gallery. It is simply a wood-paneled room on the third floor of the county courthouse. Fluorescent lights hang from the ceiling. There are about a dozen rows of hard benches for observers, and at the front of the room sits Judge Patricia Holt behind the elevated bench, reading glasses resting on the bridge of her nose. Donna sits at the petitioner's table on the left side of the room. She is wearing a simple black dress and no jewelry except for a thin gold chain around her neck. Her eyes are already red, and she holds a tissue folded carefully in her left hand. She looks like a woman carrying deep emotional pain. Greg sits beside her with his briefcase open and a legal pad covered in notes. He nods confidently at the judge's clerk, as if he appears in this courtroom every week. Behind them in the gallery are 4 people I partially recognize. They appear to be distant relatives or acquaintances from Donna's life. They sit together in a small group, watching me with a mixture of concern and quiet judgment that suggests they have already heard Donna's version of the story. Jocelyn sits at the end of the second row with her hands clasped tightly together and her eyes fixed forward. I enter the courtroom with Marcus. I am wearing a white button-down shirt and dark slacks, with my hair pulled back neatly. I carry only a water bottle in my hand. Marcus carries the folders containing all of our evidence. The hearing begins. Greg stands up first. He speaks with the calm and practiced rhythm of a lawyer who earns his living by sounding reassuring. "Your Honor," he begins, "my client Donna Marsh is a devoted mother who is simply seeking to protect her adult daughter from financial decisions that she is not prepared to handle." He continues explaining that after a devastating loss, Thea Warren began displaying behavior that suggests instability and poor judgment, placing both her financial assets and personal well-being at risk. He presents the guardianship petition. He submits the psychiatric evaluation written by Dr. P. During the first 2 minutes of his speech, he uses the word love 3 separate times. When he finishes, Judge Holt looks toward me and says, "Ms. Warren, you may respond." Every person in the courtroom shifts their attention toward our table. Marcus stands up to begin speaking, but before he can start, Greg raises his hand and calls his first witness. The petitioner calls Jocelyn Marsh. Jocelyn walks slowly toward the witness chair. Her posture is stiff, like someone walking into a medical appointment they would rather avoid. She avoids looking at me. Greg begins asking gentle questions. "Can you describe your interactions with your sister?" he asks. Jocelyn answers while looking at the judge rather than at me. "I reached out because I wanted to build a relationship," she says. "We met for coffee, but she seemed suspicious and hostile. She kept asking why I was there, like she thought I had some kind of hidden agenda. That description is completely inaccurate. Greg asks another question. Did she say anything that caused you concern about her mental condition? Jocelyn touches a tissue to her eye. She said that she did not trust anyone and that she felt like people were watching her. She seemed paranoid. I never said anything like that. She is repeating a prepared script. Jocelyn continues, her voice breaking at exactly the right moment. It hurt me deeply. I only wanted a sister, but she treated me like an enemy. Greg nods slowly and says, no further questions. Judge Holt turns her attention toward Marcus. Cross-examination, she asks. Marcus shakes his head once and replies, not at this time, Your Honor. We will address this testimony during our response. I look at him in surprise as my pulse rises slightly. Marcus writes a single word on his legal pad and tilts it toward me so I can see it. The word says, wait. Behind us in the gallery, Donna's supporters whisper quietly among themselves. One woman shakes her head in my direction, while another reaches forward to pat Donna's shoulder. Jocelyn returns to her seat and briefly looks toward her mother. Donna gives her a small nod of approval, the type of gesture a director gives an actor after a successful performance. I remain completely still in my chair with my hands resting flat on the table and my breathing steady. Marcus did not challenge a single word she said. And at that moment, I begin to understand the reason. He is not building a defense. He is building a trap. Donna takes the witness stand next. She begins crying before she even starts speaking. I know that I was not present for Thea when she was young, she says softly. I will carry that guilt for the rest of my life. She tells the court that she left because of circumstances beyond her control. She strongly suggests that Grandma Ruth prevented her from having contact with me. My own mother kept Thea away from me, she says while looking directly at Judge Holt with tearful eyes. I wrote letters and tried to call, but she would not allow it. Ruth Warren is no longer alive to respond to those accusations, and Donna knows that. She continues describing me as overwhelmed and emotionally unstable. She claims that I've been making reckless financial decisions since Ruth's death. This guardianship is not about control, she says. It is about stepping in before something terrible happens. Greg stands again and adds, the psychiatric evaluation confirms these concerns, Your Honor. Dr. Poole's assessment has been included with our filing. Judge Holt begins reviewing the documents. The room becomes quiet except for the soft hum of the fluorescent lights and the scratching sound of the clerk's pen. In the gallery, several people nod their heads as if they believe every word. I keep my eyes on my hands resting on the table. Finally, Judge Holt closes the file and looks toward Marcus. Counselor, she says, your response. This is the moment we have been waiting for. Marcus stands slowly and buttons his jacket. One hand rests calmly on the stack of folders in front of him. He does not rush his words. Your Honor, he begins, I would like to present evidence demonstrating that this petition is not only unfounded, but is also part of an ongoing criminal scheme directed against my client. The quiet nodding in the gallery stops immediately. Greg's pen freezes halfway through writing a note, and Donna, for the first time since entering the courtroom, stops crying. Marcus does not raise his voice because he does not need to. Before addressing the guardianship petition itself, he continues, I respectfully ask permission to present contextual evidence regarding the petitioner's credibility and the legitimacy of the documents currently before the court. Judge Holt nods and says, proceed. Marcus opens the first folder. Your Honor, this is a comprehensive psychiatric evaluation of Ms. Thea Warren conducted last month by Dr. Sarah Whitfield, a board-certified psychiatrist who holds an active license in the state of Virginia. He hands the document to the clerk, who passes it forward to the judge. Dr. Sarah Whitfield reported that Thea Warren showed no cognitive impairment, no emotional instability, and no reduced decision-making capacity of any kind. In every measurable and professional assessment, Ms. Warren is fully competent to manage her own personal and financial responsibilities. Marcus then opens the second folder. Inside are Ms. Warren's tax returns, employment history, and payment records covering a period of 6 years. The documents show consistent on-time rent payments, a mortgage account in good standing, and regular positive performance evaluations from her workplace. Marcus explains clearly that these records demonstrate a pattern of responsibility and stability. This is not the record of someone who is unable to manage her own life or financial affairs. Judge Patricia Holt reads the documents silently while the entire courtroom remains completely quiet. No one in the room speaks. Marcus then opens the third folder. He does not look toward Donna. Instead, he directs his attention toward the judge. "Your Honor," he says calmly, "the evaluation submitted by the petitioner was signed by Dr. Raymond P. I would like to place on the record that Dr. Raymond P.'s medical license was officially revoked 2 years ago by the Virginia Board of Medicine after an investigation found that he had provided fabricated psychiatric evaluations in several legal proceedings." The clerk immediately stops typing. Judge Holt slowly removes her reading glasses. Greg shifts uncomfortably in his chair. "Mr. Marsh," the judge says while looking directly at Greg, "were you aware that Dr. Poole's medical license had already been revoked?" Greg clears his throat before answering. "I was not personally involved in selecting the evaluator, Your Honor." Marcus closes the third folder, but his presentation is far from finished. "That information is only the beginning, Your Honor," he says calmly. He reaches for the fourth folder while I notice the color slowly leaving Greg's face. Marcus carefully spreads a large printed timeline across the clerk's desk. The document is 11 pages long and color-coded, with detailed notes that include dates, addresses, account numbers, and transaction references. "Your Honor," Marcus explains, "during the past 6 weeks my client discovered that 11 credit cards and 3 personal loans were opened under her name using her social security number without her knowledge or permission." He pauses briefly before continuing. "The total amount of fraudulent debt exceeds $87,000. He begins guiding the judge through the evidence step by step, reviewing each account individually. The first credit account was opened when Ms. Warren was only 14 years old. The most recent account was opened approximately 6 months ago. Every billing address connected to these accounts traces directly to a residence that was occupied either by the petitioner, Donna Marsh, or by her husband, Gregory Marsh." Marcus pauses again, allowing the courtroom to absorb the significance of the information. "My client has filed an official identity theft report with the Federal Trade Commission," he continues. "She has also filed a formal report with local law enforcement authorities. The documents in front of you include official confirmations from the major credit bureaus verifying that these accounts were fraudulent." Marcus places each document in front of the judge one at a time, as if playing cards face up on a table. "The individual who is claiming that my client cannot manage her finances," Marcus states firmly, "has been illegally managing those finances without permission for more than a decade." A sharp breath comes from the gallery behind us. One of Donna's relatives leans forward in shock with her mouth slightly open. Donna remains completely still at the petitioner's table. She is still holding the tissue in her hand, but she has stopped using it. Marcus then removes one final document from the folder. "Your Honor," he says, "this particular credit card account, a Visa card ending in the digits 4471, was opened 3 weeks after the death of Ms. Warren's grandmother, Ruth Warren." Judge Holt lifts her eyes from the document and looks directly at Donna. The courtroom is so quiet that the ticking clock on the wall becomes clearly audible. 3 weeks, Marcus repeats carefully. The flowers placed on Ruth Warren's grave were still fresh. Judge Holt turns toward Donna and says, "Ms. Marsh, you may respond to these allegations." Donna's controlled composure collapses immediately. It does not fade slowly. It breaks all at once, like ice cracking under heavy weight. "I do not know anything about this," she says quickly. Her voice no longer carries the practiced tremble she used earlier. Now it sounds raw and unprepared. Someone must have stolen her information. It was not me. Marcus quietly reaches back into the folder. Without speaking, he removes 2 separate documents and holds them side by side. "Your Honor, this document is a letter written by Donna Marsh to her mother, Ruth Warren, approximately 8 years ago requesting $5,000. He places the letter on the desk. And this second document is the signature that appears on the application for the fraudulent Visa credit card ending in 4471. He positions the documents next to each other so that the handwriting can be easily compared. The handwriting appears consistent, Marcus continues. If the court has any doubt, I respectfully request that a formal handwriting analysis be ordered. Greg quickly stands up. Objection. Relevance. Judge Holt does not even look toward him. Overruled. Sit down, Mr. Marsh. Donna suddenly turns in her chair, not toward the judge, but toward me. Her face is smeared with mascara and anger. I am your mother, she shouts loudly. Everything I did happened because I had no other choice. The bailiff immediately takes a step forward. The entire gallery becomes tense and silent. You owe me, Thea, Donna continues. I gave you life. I look at her from across the courtroom. My voice remains steady and calm. You gave me life, I say clearly. Then you left it. After that, you tried to take control of it. Judge Holt strikes the gavel once. Order. Ms. Marsh, you will control yourself or you will be removed from this courtroom. Donna collapses back into her chair. In the second row, Jocelyn stares down at her hands, which are visibly shaking. The woman who earlier patted Donna's shoulder now pulls her hand away. Marcus is still not finished presenting his evidence. Your Honor, there is one final matter that the court should review. He opens the last section of his file. During our investigation, we obtained the petitioner's financial records through a subpoena. Within those records, we discovered that Gregory Marsh, the petitioner's husband and the legal representative in this very proceeding, co-signed on 2 of the loans that were taken out using Ms. Warren's stolen Social Security number. The courtroom becomes completely still. The clerk stops typing again. Even the faint humming of the fluorescent lights seems quieter. Judge Holt leans forward slightly. Mr. Marsh, she asks Greg directly, is this information accurate? Greg's mouth opens, then closes, then opens again. He looks like someone who has suddenly realized the ground beneath his feet has disappeared. Your Honor, those loans were... He stops speaking, then starts again. I would like to request a recess. Denied, Judge Holt says in a firm and level voice. You are representing the petitioner in a guardianship proceeding while potentially participating in identity fraud against the respondent. This court considers that situation extremely serious. She turns to the bailiff and says, make note that this matter will be referred to the Virginia State Bar for investigation. Greg slowly sits down. He does not touch his legal pad again. At that moment, something unexpected happens. Jocelyn stands up in the gallery. Her voice is quiet but steady. I did not know about any of this. Everyone in the courtroom turns toward her. Donna's head quickly snaps toward her daughter. Mom told me that Thea was mentally ill, Jocelyn says. She told me exactly what to say. She coached me for 2 days before today. I thought I was helping. Jocelyn looks directly at me. Her eyes are red, but not from acting. They show the shock that appears when someone suddenly realizes the truth about something they believed. I am sorry, Thea, she says quietly. I did not know. Donna grabs Jocelyn's arm and says sharply, sit down right now. Jocelyn pulls her arm away while the bailiff steps between them. Judge Holt removes her glasses and places them on the bench in front of her. She folds her hands together and looks across the courtroom for several seconds before speaking. This court has now heard testimony, reviewed the petition, and examined the evidence submitted by both parties. She turns toward Donna. Ms. Marsh, the petition requesting guardianship over Thea Warren is denied in its entirety. The respondent has demonstrated full cognitive, emotional, and financial capability. She pauses briefly before continuing. The psychiatric evaluation submitted in support of your petition was signed by a physician whose medical license had already been revoked, which renders the document inadmissible. In addition, the testimony of your witness has now been withdrawn by that witness herself. Donna does not move. The tissue remains crushed inside her hand. Furthermore, Judge Holt continues, the evidence of identity theft presented by the respondent is deeply troubling to this court. I am referring the complete record, including credit reports, account documentation, and investigative findings, to the county prosecutor's office for criminal review. She then looks toward Greg. Mr. Marsh, your possible involvement in these fraudulent financial accounts will be referred to the Virginia State Bar. I strongly recommend that you obtain independent legal counsel immediately. Greg keeps his eyes fixed on the table in front of him. Finally, Judge Holt delivers her final instruction. I am issuing a temporary restraining order. Ms. Donna Marsh, Mr. Gregory Marsh, and Ms. Jocelyn Marsh are prohibited from contacting, visiting, or communicating with Thea Warren by any method. This order becomes effective immediately. The gavel strikes the bench. The sound echoes through the small courtroom like a final period placed at the end of a long sentence. The bailiff escorts Donna toward the door. She turns once, looks at me, and says quietly, almost like she is speaking to herself, "She is my daughter." The door closes behind her. Marcus places a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "It is over, Thea." I reach into my jacket pocket and feel the folded note with Ruth's handwriting still preserved on the paper. I do not cry. Instead, I take a slow breath. 2 weeks after the hearing, the consequences begin to unfold quickly. The county prosecutor reviews the referral and opens a formal investigation. Within a month, Donna Marsh faces criminal charges under federal identity theft statutes. The charges include 11 counts of fraudulent use of a social security number and 3 counts of credit fraud. The charges carry a combined possible prison sentence ranging from 5 to 15 years. Greg Marsh's situation begins falling apart separately, but just as completely. The Virginia State Bar suspends his law license while an official investigation moves forward. Only 3 days later, a former client files another ethics complaint against him. Apparently, Greg's professional problems did not begin with my case. Back at the Maple Ridge house, I replace every lock on the doors, install a new deadbolt, and set up a security camera at the front entrance. I do not do these things because I am afraid. I do them because I am finished leaving doors open for people who already proved they cannot be trusted. My credit report begins the slow process of recovery. With the FTC identity theft report and the court referral officially recorded, the credit bureaus start removing the fraudulent accounts one by one. Claire checks in every week with updates. 2 more accounts removed. She tells me one afternoon, "Your score is 580 now." Slowly, the numbers begin moving in the right direction. Soon the relatives who previously called me ungrateful, the same ones who sent messages quoting Bible verses about honoring your mother, begin reaching out. Cousin Linda leaves a voicemail message. "Thea, honey, I had no idea what was really happening." "I am so sorry." I listened to the message one time. I do not return the call. Then another discovery appears. While the prosecutor's office reviews Donna's financial records, investigators find 2 additional credit cards opened under my name. Both applications were submitted during the week before the court hearing. Each card included cash advances taken to the maximum limit. That means Donna was not only fighting for guardianship in court. She was also preparing a backup plan, draining as much money as she could before the opportunity disappeared. I stare at the notification sent by the credit bureau and realize something important. She never stopped. Not for 21 years. Not even when she sat inside that courtroom crying about how deeply she loved me. On a quiet Saturday in late spring, I bring a box of cleaning supplies to the Maple Ridge house and spend the entire day there. I wash every window, sweep the porch, and wipe down the kitchen cabinets using the same lemon cleaner Ruth always preferred. I even find 2 bottles of that cleaner under the sink, almost like she expected I would need them someday. I empty the filing cabinet completely and reorganize everything using a new system. Important documents now exist as digital copies stored on encrypted drives, and I place the originals inside a locked safe in the bedroom closet. I will not trust the world the same way Ruth did. I admire her kindness, but I will not repeat the same risks. While searching through the bottom drawer of her dresser, I discover a photograph I have never seen before. Ruth is holding me as a baby. I cannot be more than 6 months old. She is looking down at me, and her expression shows something powerful that I can only describe as fierce love, as if she had already decided she would protect me against the entire world if necessary. I place the photograph on the kitchen counter and lean quietly against the stove. Around 4:00 p.m., Claire pulls into the driveway with a bottle of wine and a bag of takeout from the Thai restaurant near our office. She does not ask how I am feeling. Instead, she holds up the bag and says, "Pad see ew, extra lime." We sit together on the porch and eat dinner while the sun slowly sets and the evening light turns everything a warm copper color. Claire talks about a man she has been texting recently. I mention that the porch railing probably needs to be replaced. We talk about ordinary things, small things that make life feel normal again. After a while, she asks, "Are you planning to move in here?" I nod slowly. "Yes, I think so." The house creaks when the wind passes through the trees, in the same familiar places it always did. The screen door still sticks when you try to close it. The garden has grown wild and messy, but it is mine now. Not simply because Ruth left it behind. It belongs to me because I fought to keep it. A few weeks after the hearing, Marcus calls me on a Tuesday evening. His voice carries the calm tone of someone who has finally finished a long and difficult task. "I have some news," he says. The judge's referral caused the county to review how guardianship petitions are handled. They're updating the verification procedures. From now on, the credentials of any physician submitting a mental evaluation must be verified before a guardianship hearing can proceed. I lean against the kitchen doorway while listening. "Because of my case?" I ask. Marcus answers, "Because of your case. It will not solve every problem, but it will make it harder for someone to attempt the type of scheme Donna tried." I look across the living room at the framed photograph of Ruth sitting on the side table, the one where she holds the pruning shears in the garden. "She would be glad to hear that," I say quietly. Marcus remains silent for a moment before speaking again. "Ruth would be proud of you, Thea. I know that with certainty." I feel something shift gently inside my chest. It is not sadness, and it is not relief. It feels more like a door closing softly behind me. "Marcus, thank you for everything," I say. He answers immediately. "Do not thank me. You saved yourself. I simply kept the promise I made to your grandmother." After we end the call, I stand alone in the hallway for several minutes. The filing cabinet is gone now, moved into storage, and the hallway feels larger without it. I think about Ruth's 2 rules that she repeated throughout my childhood: work hard and never depend on someone who already proved they would leave you behind. At the time, I did not fully understand that she was speaking about Donna. Now I understand clearly. Ruth probably knew that this day would eventually arrive. She might not have known every detail, but she understood the shape of it. A mother who disappeared, a daughter who stayed, and a conflict that would one day demand a fight. She made sure I had the tools to face it, and she made sure Marcus would be there to stand beside me. That was not luck. That was love, the kind of love that prepares for the future. I want to say something directly, because I know some people watching this right now might be facing a situation that feels similar. When someone in your family uses the word love as a reason to take your money or control your choices, that is not love. That is leverage. And no one owes another person their freedom simply because they share the same DNA. Now I have a question for you. Do you believe that Jocelyn deserves forgiveness? She lied under oath in the courtroom, but she also chose to tell the truth when it truly mattered. What would you do in that situation? Share your thoughts in the comments. Here is how the story ends. 6 months later, my credit score reaches 720. The process required dozens of phone calls, 3 rounds of formal disputes, and a stack of FTC paperwork thick enough to hold a door open, but every fraudulent account has been removed. My financial record is completely clean again. Donna eventually pleads guilty. The judge sentences her to 3 years in federal prison and orders restitution totaling $87,000. Her attorney negotiates the plea agreement in order to avoid a full trial. I am told that she cried in the courtroom when the sentence was announced. I was not there, and I did not need to be. Greg Marsh loses his law license permanently after being disbarred by the Virginia State Bar. The last information I heard suggests he is now working in real estate in North Carolina without the ability to practice law again. Jocelyn sends a written apology through her attorney. The letter is 2 pages long. I read it carefully. It sounds sincere, but I do not reply. Perhaps one day I will respond. For now, the answer is not yet. I move into the Maple Ridge house permanently and rent out my previous apartment. The rental income now covers the mortgage payments. The garden has been restored halfway to what Ruth once maintained, and I personally replaced the porch railing with Claire's help. She held the wooden board steady while I drilled the screws into place. We argued only 2 times about whether the railing was perfectly level. At work, my supervisor Tom pulls me aside on my first day back. I owe you an apology, he tells me. I should have asked what was happening before suggesting you take time off. I tell him it is all right, and I truly mean it. People sometimes make incorrect assumptions. The ones who correct those assumptions afterward are the ones worth keeping in your life. I permanently freeze my credit reports. My social security number is locked and every financial account is monitored. No one can open anything under my name without my direct authorization. I do not communicate with Donna anymore. I do not follow updates about her legal situation. I also changed my phone number and deactivated the social media accounts where she previously contacted me. That door is closed now. I closed it myself. One Sunday in September, I sit on the porch at Maple Ridge while the air smells like fresh-cut grass and the first hint of autumn. A glass of iced tea rests on the railing, and a book sits in my lap that I have not even opened. Sometimes the porch alone feels peaceful enough. I reach into the small drawer of the side table where Ruth used to keep her reading glasses and remove the slip of paper I discovered months ago. I have already read it at least 100 times, but I unfold it again. The message says, Thea, everything in this house is yours. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. For a long time, I believed she was speaking about the physical house itself, the walls, the roof, and the filing cabinet filled with records. Now I realize that is not what she meant. She meant the life inside the house. The mornings I spent doing homework at the kitchen table. The evenings when we sat together on the porch listening to the crickets. The person she helped shape through patience, discipline, and simple Thursday pot roast dinners. That is what truly belongs to me. Not the wood and plaster of the building, but the foundation she placed inside me. I carry the note into the living room and place it inside a small picture frame that costs $4 at the drugstore. Then I hang it on the wall next to Ruth's photograph, the one where she stands in the garden holding her pruning shears. The two frames look right together. My mother gave me a name, but my grandmother gave me a life. When someone later tried to take both away from me, I chose to protect what truly mattered. If there is one lesson you take from my story, let it be this. The people who raise you do not always share your blood, but the people who try to destroy you do not deserve a place in your life. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this story. It was not easy to share, but I believe it was important to tell. If you are watching this while fighting to protect yourself from someone who should have protected you, remember that setting boundaries is not selfish. It is survival. If this story meant something to you, please press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you do not miss future stories. There is another powerful story waiting in the description below. Trust me, you will want to see it. I will see you in the next one.